Welcome to another episode of Saving One Life Yours, a podcast brought to you by tag4life. We shine a powerful light on medically vulnerable people who, for whatever reason, can't speak for themselves. Our hosts and moderators are Ken Feld, tag4life's Chief Operating Officer, and Victoria Yoakum, tag4life's Marketing and Social Media Director. In today's episode, we join Ken and Victoria as they sit down with Rachel Hrbek and Joann Schimmel. Rachel shares her journey after being diagnosed with a rare genetic mutation that causes Polycythemia Vera, a type of blood cancer, and Budd-Chiari Syndrome that causes occlusion of the hepatic veins that drain the liver. Joann is not only Rachel's mother, but also one of her caregivers during this chapter in her life. Today, we learn of how they overcame the difficult experience of going through an organ transplant from their different perspectives. Their story concludes with a surprising and inspirational twist you won't want to miss.
Hey, Victoria, how are you?
Hi, Ken. I'm doing great. It was a good week. The weather's warming up, finally, thankfully. So it's been good.
That's great to see you again. And we're really, really excited about today's episode of Saving One Life Yours. We've got two really phenomenal guests that we just can't wait to hear their story and have them share it with us. And I think we should just get right to it, and we'll let them begin with telling us about their journey.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, April is Donate Life Month. And so today we have two guests that have amazing experience with organ donation. And yeah, we're excited. So Rachel, we're going to start off with you. Could you just tell us about your journey and your experience with transplant?
Sure. My journey started a bit rocky. It was very sudden. I got very sick very quickly. I was very healthy. I was working out every day. I was eating right, drinking my water, everything. And then all of a sudden, around fall of 2022, I started to get really sick. I had really strange symptoms. I was starting to get hot flashes that were like extreme. I was like soaking. I had to bring extra set of clothes every day to work. I was starting to get really tired. I would fall asleep while I was talking to people or while I was writing things. And I had these weird, almost felt like my blood pressure was dropping, but it wasn't. I felt like my heart was racing, and it would just come on all of a sudden out of nowhere. I didn't really know what was happening. So I actually went to my endocrinologist. I thought maybe my thyroid was acting up. I have hypothyroidism. And so she ordered a giant comprehensive panel just to kind of look at everything. She said my thyroid was fine, but when I looked at my CBCs, my blood counts, my liver enzymes, all of that was elevated. Um, Around the same time, I also was starting to get a weird like abdominal bloating, but usually you get like lower abdominal bloating. Mine was upper abdominal. So I talked to my PCP. She said, we'll redo labs in a month, make sure it's not just a fluke. And then she ordered a ultrasound to check the distension I was having. That was around, I want to say beginning mid-November of that year. I had all that testing done. We were waiting for results to come back. And in the meantime, I was getting sicker all of a sudden. I started to get really nauseous. I was throwing up, and I was told to just go to the ER and see what's going on. So I went to my Honor Health, which was like just a few minutes from my house, and they ran hundreds of tests, and they did imaging and everything. They didn't have anything solid by the time I was discharged. I was only there for about a week, but they said they were thinking that I could have a rare cancer of the blood called Polycythemia Vera, which was causing my body to throw clots. They found clots in my right lung and throughout my liver. And so what they were figuring out was that I might have something called Budd-Chiari Syndrome, which is where the veins of the liver are getting clogged up. And that was causing my liver to expand, causing that distension I was feeling. I went through. Yeah, of
Was
course.
was there any symptoms that they could recognize or anything that they information they gave you that kind of identified what your condition was that maybe we should know about or we should,
It
share with our
seems like
listeners?
they didn't know a lot at that time. It wasn't until I went to Mayo. They were ordering more testing. They were ordering, they had a biopsy, and it was around that time that I was starting to figure more out. So I had the liver biopsy, and I got really sick from it. I was having a hard time waking up afterwards. It took me a few hours. I couldn't stand, I couldn't walk. I was vomiting again. And so I talked to my hepatologist, and he said, you need to find a transplant hospital. And he recommended Mayo. And so I went to the Mayo ER, and that's where I started getting answers. They did a bunch of their testing, imaging, biopsies, and found out that I had a genetic mutation called JAK2, which is common in Ashkenazi Jews, which I'm an Ashkenazi Jew, unfortunately, in this situation. Um, and that had caused the Polycythemia Vera to start, which is the PV, the blood cancer. And so that was confirmed, that diagnosis was confirmed, and that had caused the clots to cause my liver to expand. The Budd-Chiari was also confirmed. By the
And how
time I got,
long, sorry, how
no, you're
long from the time that you started experiencing the bloating and the symptoms and those sort of things, how long did it take to finally get that answer, those answers, that diagnosis?
probably right around 2 months.
Wow.
It was a long time, but also fairly quick. I mean, how quickly everything progressed. I got very sick very quickly within those 2 months.
I'm sure it felt, it did, I mean, it sounds like not a lot of time, but I'm sure for you, it felt like a lifetime. And I mean, like us going through, similar, we're all liver transplant recipients. I can definitely understand, like, it may not sound like a long time, but it feels like forever when you're suffering and when you don't feel well.
Yeah,
So I'm
definitely.
assuming after you got the diagnosis, you were referred to the transplant center at Mayo. And what was that process like?
Because I was so sick, so my MELD score when I was admitted to Mayo was 39, so just under that 40. They were trying to stabilize me for a lot of the time that I was in the hospital. I was in the hospital for a few weeks there. They were trying to get my vitals stabilized and get my PV under control so that I wouldn't continue to throw clots. But by the time I got listed, I was listed on December 30th of 22, and I got my call on January 2nd. So 4 days later, I got my transplant on January 3rd.
Wow,
And everything went
congratulations.
well.
Yeah.
Saved my life.
Joann, I have a question for you. What was it like as Rachel's mom to go through that
It was a
experience?
nightmare. It was a nightmare. It was horrible. It was terrifying. It was, her going, like she said, from this healthy, normal daughter to just catastrophic. And then initially they had told us possibly liver cancer. That an ER doctor in another hospital told us he thought almost definitely she had liver cancer. And we just all about crumbled there in the ER. And then, yeah, and then to get to, oh, maybe she has a problem with her liver. Maybe she'll get a stent. Maybe it'll just be this. Oh, she'll have a surgery. No, she needed a new liver. It was horrifying to go through as a parent.
Yeah,
The
of course.
courage and the strength that you must have had to just give her had to come from somewhere. And I'm just curious, how do you go about that as a caregiver, watching someone you love go through something like this and still find the internal fortitude to be supportive and loving and positive?
Yeah, that's a tough one because it's hard. And I think on the inside, you care for yourself, and on the outside, that's your daughter or that's the person you care about, and you're going to do everything you can to be there for them and they're going through the worst thing possible too, and you want to help. And so you're going to just put yourself aside and go, I have to help. I have to see anything I could do to make the situation better for her. And boy, it's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Rachel,
Rachel,
what's
it
your life?
required, sorry, go ahead.
What's your life like now, Rachel?
It's been a bit of a roller coaster, but it's starting to get better. I do have to do ERCPs every couple of months to remove and replace stents, which was a bit of a surprise for us. I had a brain dead donor, which is usually unlikely to have ERCPs, but I did end up having ischemic cholangiopathy. I've had 7 as of now, and my most recent ones have been going really well, and they're actually going to possibly trial no stents, so that's really exciting. I also went on my first trip post-transplant just last month. I went to Turks and Caicos, and it was wonderful. Everything went perfect. So that's really exciting. I'm finally starting to work out again. I went through physical therapy my whole first year. I had a lot of atrophy just from being in bed for so long. And then my liver disease was so bad, it was just atrophying my muscles. I also had nausea working against me for a year. I did not tolerate the medications that we were on initially very well at all. I had no appetite. I wasn't eating. I wasn't gaining weight. I couldn't gain muscle. I couldn't gain endurance. And I finally talked to our transplant team and they got my meds changed up and I feel tons better. I've actually started to gain weight now. I've gained like 10 pounds and I feel a lot better. I can actually get through a workout and I'm just starting to build muscle, which feels great. And my endurance is definitely improving. So doing really well finally.
That's
Hooray.
awesome. You look amazing. Like, I know it being like illness is invisible, of course, sometimes, but even compared to when we first saw you on support group, like you just seem like even your energy just seems so much brighter. I was going to say, obviously it took a lot of strength for you, Rachel, to go through that, to go from being healthy to now all these sudden changes and your life's kind of deteriorating. That took a lot of strength, but it also took so much strength for you, Joann, as a mother to support her and be her caregiver and to go through all of that. Rachel, I wanted to ask, since you've had the transplant, are the issues that you had, the diagnosis that you had prior, is it resolved now? Will it come back? What does that look like?
Polycythemia vera is very treatable. So when you know you have it, it's very easy to control. I'm on very, very low levels of chemo medications, and then I take blood thinners for now. I have been told by my hematologist, though, that I won't have to be on those for life. It's just one of those things you just kind of keep an eye on, and it's very easy to control. My kidneys were hit while I was going through my liver disease, but took them 6 months, but they finally bounced back. So they're doing a lot better. I'm finally just barely on the border of normal, which is excellent. So just drinking my water and getting my salt intake, my blood pressure is nice and normal. And so my kidneys are doing much better.
Yeah, that's really exciting. We're super happy. You know, there's an interesting twist to this story, which we would like to explore. Joann, I understand that this had a really profound impact on your life and created some decisions and changes for you. And would you share with us all about that?
Sure. Sure. So initially, like Rachel was saying, she thought she might need a kidney transplant as well because her kidneys were hit. So I started thinking, well, am I too old? I was 61 at the time. I'm still 61. And I thought, am I too old? Could I be a match? Could I donate a kidney if she needed it? I remember asking Dr. Kell at the flag raising. I went up to him in secret and I said, could I help? Could I donate? And he was like, we'll cross that bridge if we come to it. There was not time yet for that, And so, but I started to look into the process some at that time. And then they had put Rachel on the list to possibly, need a kidney and to do the evaluations. And she was starting down that path and her numbers were getting worse and worse. And like I said, I was just looking into it at the time, finding out what I could find out. And then all of a sudden, her numbers reversed. and they started to go in the opposite direction. And her nephrologist said, you know, it could just be that she was late to get the kidneys to open back up. But it was happening, and week by week the numbers were improving, and it was looking really good, and now stellar that she's not going to need a kidney. But I had started to look into the process at the time, and I had put my name, you know, in at Mayo and stuff. And then I had, you know, somebody called me and said, do I have any questions about the process? And through it, I started talking to people. And I thought, you know, some family had to lose a child or a family member to donate a liver to Rachel. And I wanted to give back to that system. I wanted to donate and be there for somebody else. And I just thought, I've already looked into this, and the process of donating was nowhere near what I thought. I guess I thought like your whole life would be changed and more difficult, and medically you'd be real different if you donated. And it couldn't be farther from the truth. The people I was speaking to were living 100% normal lives after donating a kidney. And I just thought, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to do it anyway. And so I kept going through the process, and I became a non-directed donor, which means you just donate to a stranger. But you still can get vouchers. So if one day she ever did need a kidney, if something's shifted, I'd have the voucher for her. But, you know, I didn't need to donate for her. So I just did the non-directed donor, and I started to go through the process with Mayo, which was such a great experience. I have to tell you, if anybody you know is thinking about it, they should do it, because Mayo runs you through every test in the book, and just so thorough, and they're so good. And then they ran me through all these tests. I want to say I started in like August. And then by September, they took it to the committee, and they said they still had more tests they needed to run. They said it was deferred. So I wasn't approved yet to donate. And I was really disappointed. I was like, oh, I had, you know, got my heart set on doing this then. And so then they went back and they ran more tests and more in-depth tests and stuff. And then it was in November that I got approved. And they said, you're approved, and we're going to, you know, do some more stuff, and then we're going to activate you. And so they activated me. They said, we need it was like December by then. And they said, we need a 3-week period of dates. And they said, you know, if you start right after Christmas here, you could do January 3rd to January 25th. Will that work for you? And I said, sure, you know. And then that I was a little nervous. You know, I was a non-directed donor, and I thought, what if they don't find anybody who matches for my kidney, or who needs my kidney? Like, I'd gone through all this, and I told my nurse I had gone through with Zach Villanueva, I think is how you say his name, at Mayo. And he was just with me hand in hand the whole process, and so great. And I told him, I'm worried, what if, you know, nobody needs my kidney? And he was like, that's not going to happen. Somebody is going to need your kidney. And so he said, it's going to activate, and we'll let you know when we get a kidney and a recipient. And the next day he said, we have your recipient. And he said, he had said your date to have your surgery probably will be around January 19th. And I said, that's fine. Okay. And he said, the date's going to change. He said, it's going to be January 3rd. Will that work for you? And I said, yeah, that's fine. And that'll work. And so I was all excited, and I jumping up and down, literally so excited. And I called Rachel and I said, they've got my person. My surgery is going to be on January 3rd. And she goes, Mom, that's my date. 1 year later, exactly to the day, she got her liver on January 3rd, and I was going to be donating my kidney on January 3rd, 1 year to the day. And
Wow.
so it's really cool.
You're making
And
me
I,
emotional over here. That's
It
amazing.
was so funny because when I went in to have my surgery, the nurse had asked me about it and I told her the story and she was like, oh, oh, that just gives me goosebumps. And then they wheeled me into the OR to have the surgery and she goes, tell the doctors, tell them your story, tell them about the date. And before they put me I told everybody in the OR and they were all like, wow, they were excited. So it was very cool.
What an
Wow.
amazing story. That is like absolutely incredible that you had the inspiration and the motivation to do it so much after you saw what Rachel went through. And to think that that person who received your kidney may have been in a situation like Rachel, needing it and like suffering, and you changed their life. Oh my gosh, it's just incredible.
We don't
It's
ever,
such a gift.
we don't get the opportunity often to talk to individuals from the other side, the donor side, as being recipients ourselves. This is, I have to just share with you, an honor and a real privilege. You are remarkable,
Oh, thank you.
are absolutely remarkable, and the ability to save someone's life, is what you've done, and you've chosen to do that. And I just think that that's a remarkable story. I can't thank you enough.
Oh,
And
thank you.
all of us at Tag for Life and anyone who's listening to this is just indebted to you for your selflessness and your willingness to just save another person. It's truly remarkable.
Yeah,
I have to tell you, it's such a gift to be able to do it. It's like when I decided to do it, and my husband was like, are you sure? And I'm like, it'll be the best thing I've ever done. And it is. It's like it goes down there in my life as one of the best things I've ever done. And it's so wonderful for me to be able to do it. It's just such a gift to me.
You're such a hero, and it's so amazing. And you said when you were in your story that it wasn't a hard process and that it was very smooth through the Mayo Clinic and that, you were excited the whole time. After you did it, how was the recovery?
The recovery was nothing. I get nauseous with like narcotic drugs, oxy and stuff. And so I had told them, I don't think I'm going to be able to take them. And they're like, well, you're gonna probably want to take them. You're gonna need to take them. And I'm like, I'm just gonna try just taking the Tylenol, not taking them. And so I took Tylenol and I was like, I'm fine. It wasn't bad at all. And then I went home and, there's a normal soreness, discomfort, but I watched Rachel go through her stuff. What all you guys have gone through, that's something. That's a huge, difficult, intense surgery and process. But mine was very, very minor.
Hey,
Yeah.
Rachel, just curious, what's it like having a rock star for a mom?
She's always been a rock star.
I have a rock star for a daughter. She's amazing.
Now, did the two of you go to Mayo together to get your blood work drawn, and do you compete against who's going to get the most attention? Or do you go into separate buildings? You go to building 1, I'll go to building 3. How does that all work out for you?
We compete over who has worse veins. We both have like the worst veins on the planet. How many sticks do they need to get us? How many tries to get an IV, right?
Rachel, what was the experience like for you when you found out that your mom was going to do this, kind of in your honor, really?
I was very excited for her. She's always been very giving, very much like a mama bear. And I think when she saw this opportunity, she had her heart set on it and she was so excited, and it made me excited for her. I knew this was something she really wanted, and I thought it was just such a cool thing that she was able to do. And I knew that getting through it wasn't going to be hard because she's a powerhouse, and I knew she'd be able to do it just fine. And she did. She came out just fine. And I was amazed at how fast she recovered. She was just walking around already and no worries with her incision or anything. It was good. She healed really quickly.
Wow. And Joann, I know that it usually takes some time, and you were an anonymous donor, but have you heard from the recipient? Do you know anything about the recipient?
I haven't heard from the recipient. No, and I'm fine either way. I feel like no matter what, my part was done and I did it. And I just, somebody told me with the process that she was in New York City when she donated. And like she liked to walk around New York City and know that somebody was walking around with one of her kidneys. And she could just look at all the people and go, there's somebody out there walking around with one of my kidneys. And I love that. And I feel like, yeah, it doesn't matter, if they contact me, great. But if they don't, I'm fine with that too. It's just wonderful to know that I was able to do that.
You are truly an inspiration. You absolutely an inspiration to all of us. I can't wait to put this out there and have our viewers and everyone
Oh,
share
you're so sweet.
this experience, because we just don't run into people like you very often, and you're a one in a million. And I can't, again, thank you enough for your sacrifice and willingness to participate in saving another person's life. It just, it's remarkable.
And Rachel, you are also an inspiration for what you went through and all that you've overcome. And to know that from where you started, and maybe it was a tough start with your recovery, but now you're at this point where you, like you said, you're so close to normal. And it hasn't been very long, probably like almost 2 years, year and a half, right? So
yeah, almost a year and a half. Yeah.
So to know that your recovery for you, seeing where you came from and now where you're at, it's so incredible. Your guys' story is unreal, and you're both heroes and you're both inspirations.
In the last few seconds that we have left, would either one of you like to leave us with some parting thoughts or comments?
Go for it, Rachel.
I do have to say that I think I just want to do a shout out to Dr. Raquel. I think he has driven all of us through our journeys, and I think he's just amazing. I know when I was going through my journey, he was the first light that we had, that people were telling me that I wouldn't live through this, and he was the first one to say that we're not going to let you die, we're going to save your life, you're going to get this transplant and you're going to live a long life. And he's just always so motivating and optimistic about things, and it makes such a difference. And I think with my mom too, I think that part of where she got that kind of drive to do this, because he's that driving force. And I
agree.
Shout out to him, because I know all of us just love him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you both so very much for being a part of this. As you know, with Tag4life, what we do is provide medical IDs to the medically vulnerable, those in need, and the socially disadvantaged. And I would like to just extend a gift to you that we'd like to provide you with, both of you, your choice of any medical ID that we offer. And whether, and for you, Joann, even though you don't have recurring and ongoing medical needs, the idea is a really great idea, so that in the event something happens, people know, your situation and what you've given. And so it's not just,
I love that. Thank you so much.
We'll absolutely, that's the least we could do, and are certainly happy to do that. So, and I can't thank you enough for your time and participation. It's been a real wonderful experience for me.
Yes,
thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. This has been amazing. Thank you for taking time out of your day to share your amazing story with us. And for our listeners, if anyone is curious about becoming an organ donor themselves after hearing Joann's amazing inspirational story, or you would like to learn more about the process, we encourage you to visit donatelife.org. And we look forward to seeing all of you again when Ken and I bring you another episode of Tag4life series, Saving One Life Yours.
Thank you for listening to Saving One Life Yours, a podcast by Tag4life. Please subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube Podcasts. And if you'd like to drop us a line, whether to suggest future topics or for any other reason, please do so at contact@tag4life.org. At Tag4life, we shine a powerful light on medically vulnerable people who, for whatever reason, can't speak for themselves. We do this by helping to cover the cost of their medical IDs, no questions asked. So how can you help? Go to tag4life.org, or if you're watching our video podcast, open the camera app on your smartphone and click on the QR code to get to our homepage. Then click on the Donate button to contribute to our cause. Thanks so much for your support.